Yeah, there's no Wilson Isidore on the bench, so the striking options beyond Brian Broby are very, very limited.
Yes, I mean Mienda's obviously starting, and Isidore we can only assume has picked up a knock or something from the game the other night, or they may just purely be wrapping him in cotton wool for the game at Brentford on Wednesday night. But you're right in terms of attacking options, and this has been an issue really since the 3-0 defeat at Manchester City. They've only scored one goal since then. Look, they've not conceded goals, but they are struggling to score goals. They're getting half chances, but nobody's really getting. There's nobody being clinical. There's nobody up there getting, looking. You look now beyond Broby. You want Lefay, you want Mienda, you want Adingra. You want others to be stepping up to the plate now and getting goals as well. That's a miss for Ballard. Ballard's a miss in that respect as well, I think, because his contribution when he's in the opposition penalty area is not to be sniffed at. He's a target for set pieces. He does tend to win balls. He does, win the first ball that sets up the second, and so I think that is part of the issue at the moment. But goal scoring, it is. We can't shy away from it. It is a problem. But is it a problem that you can live with at the moment? Because they're on 28 points, they're in a very comfortable position. So I think it's not something they're going to lose too much sleep over. 29 points, sorry. They're not going to lose too much sleep over that aspect. And I think this week as well, away at Tottenham, away at Brentford, away at Everton, I think they'll just look to say, if we get through this week unbeaten, that's a very, very good return.
Yeah, because that's the last thing I was going to say to you, Ben, before we wrap this little bit of conversation up, is that it's 3 draws in a row. Was it 2 wins in 9, I think, and not all that many goals scored, as Nick's just alluded to. You would take a 0-0 draw right now at Spurs away, wouldn't you? That already constitutes a good result, given where Sunderland are.
Yeah, definitely so. A point away anywhere is a good point. And you look at obviously the week which we're going through now. I'd say we just played Manchester City, we've got Tottenham, and we've got Brentford coming up as well. Look, if we go through the week unbeaten, that's a bonus, a huge bonus. And the more points we get here, there, it just puts us towards safety. You can see that, as just mentioned before, just listening to John, that the likes of your Aston Villas, your Manchester City, and Arsenal have sort of got a gap now, and then there's a group in the middle, and then you look at the bottom, and there's maybe 4 or 5 teams now who's battling at the bottom, and long may it continue.
Yeah, indeed, and that gap is still the gap that most supporters will be looking at just now, I think, is Sunderland on 29 and West Ham in 18th on 14. That's a 15-point gap to the relegation zone. But there are 90 minutes of football to talk about this afternoon for you both, so thank you for the moment to Nick Barnes and to Gary Bennett. A reminder, you can listen to them this afternoon on DAB, on Freeview Channel 711, and on BBC Sounds as well. We will split to give you the opportunity to listen to either Newcastle or Sunderland in about 5 minutes' time. Elsewhere, a couple of other non-league games from yesterday to tell you about. Gateshead now under new/old management after Rob Elliott took over from Alan Armstrong on Friday. His first game in charge was at Tamworth yesterday. They were beaten by 3-1. Kane Adom with Gateshead's goal was an equaliser at the time. They made a couple of new signings on the day yesterday. Well, 3 if you include Louis Story, who's back as player assistant manager as well. Mark Beck returning to the club on loan to the end of the season. Brad Nicholson, the left back and centre half, joining as well. But Gateshead losing yesterday, still bottom of the National League table. That is now 12 defeats in a row. South Shields remain top of National League North despite dropping points at Buxton yesterday. A 1-1 draw. Dan Ward, with former Gateshead player, with South Shields' goal. So they do remain top, but the gap has closed a little bit at the top. In rugby union, though, the story so far of the sporting weekend in the North East was Newcastle Red Bulls beating Gloucester 25-19 on Friday night in Rugby Union's Prem for their first league victory in more than a year. George McGuigan, Tom Christie and Simon Benitez Cruz with the tries. They were 20 points clear with 20 minutes to go, and Gloucester mounted a bit of a comeback, but not enough. It was a big crowd again at Kingston Park that saw them finally get themselves over the line. Here is the Newcastle Red Bulls head coach, Alan Dickens.
Look, I think the performance from the players was fantastic tonight. We got off to